Oh, wow, this one is super heavy. Ugh. This is a broken gaming PC, and it weighs like 60 pounds because there's like 3 hard drives in here, there's a few solid state drives, beefy graphics card, and this thing is loaded, okay? It has some pretty high-end specs, I think a 3900X for the CPU, plenty of RAM, and it doesn't post, which could mean a number of things. Welcome to Fix or Flop. In this playlist, we attempt to fix viewer systems in and around Orlando, Florida for free. We charge $0.00, that's right, nothing at all, so long as they're okay with us taking on these systems for a few days and filming these processes. I can monetize these videos on sites like YouTube, like you're watching here, and because of that, I don't offload any of that implied cost to the labor, the parts, etc., which I get mostly for free anyway from companies, to the viewer. I want this to be a very mutually beneficial relationship, and so far it's been working out really well. And thanks to all of your support, by just viewing these videos, we're able to continue doing what we're doing here in Florida. Now, I wasn't totally forthcoming about this PC's symptoms because actually there's a little more to it than that. So when this person submitted the inquiry, which you can do as well if you live in and around Orlando, Florida, via the link in this video description, you don't need to necessarily live in Orlando. You just need to be able to drive to me. I don't accept shipments of any kind, so don't waste your time. They get filtered out almost immediately. But this person, when he submitted the inquiry, said that his PC wouldn't post, which means that, you know, all other things look for the most part like they should be working. The fans spin, the LEDs light up, right? Graphics card looks like it's turning on, running fine. But when you connect to a monitor through the discrete card, which is what you're supposed to do in this case, you get no picture, no signal at all, which implies that obviously something is probably wrong with your hardware. Well, yesterday, the story apparently changed. Right before I went to pick it up, the owner tried to power it on one more time just to make sure it wasn't a fluke thing, and apparently it doesn't turn on at all now, or it does for like half a second and then immediately turns back off. That kind of sounds like a power supply issue, but the no post scenario could be because of a number of things. We're gonna check thoroughly, as thoroughly as we need to, the components in here and try to narrow down what is the cause. I think you will enjoy this one. Again, I'm as in the dark as you when it comes to what it could be. All I know is what I just told you. And so it's you know, a bit of a puzzle in that regard, but I think it's fun just kind of, you know, having you guys tag along, see me make mistakes, see me get led down trails that lead to nowhere, and then maybe end up looking stupid in the end. But hey, you know, that's just part of it. You know, sometimes I'm super confident that it's one thing and that it ends up not being that thing and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, let's get into it. Stay with me.
Mailgun is how modern companies manage email. It boasts a data-driven approach and easy-to-use UI so you can reach real customers at scale. Through its powerful email API and intuitive email marketing solutions, Mailgun controls the entire email lifecycle from pre-development through delivery, supporting companies like DHL, Wikipedia, and Microsoft. You'll find useful tools like send time optimization, which automatically tracks and pushes emails to individuals at the times they're most likely to engage with them, and you can create massive reports for large email lists. Even test and avoid things like spam filters the next time you click the send button. Mailgun is the most relied upon email platform for growing businesses, and we greatly appreciate their support of this channel. Try it today by using my link, mailgun.com/Greg, that's mailgun.com/GREG, which you can also find at the top of this video's description.
So jumping right into it then, the first thing we need to do is attempt to power the system on. I've said this in pretty much every Fix or Flop episode, but I always like to repeat myself because we have new viewers sometimes. They might be wondering, well, why are you trying to see if it works if we are told that it doesn't work? Well, sometimes I can be told things that are incorrect. Sometimes people lie. I'm not saying that this person did. In fact, he probably didn't, especially considering this is a free service. But I always have to check, because if the symptom that I see here in the office doesn't match what the owner describes, then it's possible something else might have happened, maybe in transport, and at that point I would need to reach back out to that person. So we're gonna flip the switch at the rear and click the power button. Okay, it's just straight up not powering on at all. That's weird. Let's try again. Nope, it does not like that. Okay, let's bypass the front panel and just jump the power pins on the motherboard. It's basically gonna be these two pins here where this connector is being pulled out. I just noticed the RGB for the motherboard flashed for a brief second when I pulled this cable out. So I think we're getting power, but only some of it. Now I'm gonna jump these pins with a screwdriver. Still nothing. This thing is dead as a doorknob. We're gonna start removing everything non-vital. Technically, this graphics card is because there's no IGP in the CPU, but we're just trying to get any sort of power at all on the board. I do see it flashing. That is so weird. The motherboard occasionally flashes this yellow or amber color. I'm gonna see if I can get that on camera. So that right there that you just saw, that might be a sign. Maybe the board's trying to tell us something. I'm gonna go look this up because I haven't seen it before. So I'm not seeing anything like super specific for this board in question. A few different symptoms that we aren't seeing so far. But in general, it looks like if we get an orange flashing light, it indicates a PSU issue. Again, this is probably to some degree board specific. I'm not sure how much of a standard it is in the industry. Sometimes when power supplies are dead, you don't get any blinking at all, right? How could you if the PSU is totally fried? So I'm still gonna narrow down my search to the PSU, but I think we should start taking things out of the rig that aren't necessary, again, the non-vital stuff, and just think we can get the board to power up with the original PSU. If we can't at that point, I'm going to try a different unit and then we can run tests with the original. So I've detached everything from the rig except for the platform. This is the only things receiving power here. The motherboard, the RAM, and the CPU via the 24-pin and the 8-pin EPS. That's it. Even the hard drives behind this motherboard tray have been disconnected, peripherals, etc. No fan should spin. And this is what we want because it fully isolates the primary components here with the exception of the card, which is fairly easy to troubleshoot in most cases. So I've got the power on behind and yeah, still nothing. Are we getting the blinking? Yes, we're still getting the blinking amber LED. So yeah, this is looking like a power supply issue. Now, if you thought that removing a power supply was going to be easy, think again. I know this looks kind of jank, but for troubleshooting purposes, it's exactly what we want. We've bypassed the owner's PSU. Again, this one I know works. We've just got the 24-pin and the 8-pin UPS connected. I'm gonna flip the switch here. It's blinking still up top, but it's blinking faster now. What is going on? I have no idea. Let's try powering on anyway, and still nothing. Are you kidding me? Not a power supply issue. This is gonna require a bit more effort. In hindsight, this might seem like a stupid thing to do, but because I don't wanna look silly and not try this before we swap the entire platform out, I wanna clear the CMOS, just to be on the safe side here. And we can do that just by jumping these two CMOS pins with our screwdriver, about 10 to 20 seconds. Also tried swapping out his memory, trying a single DIMM in each slot, also used a DIMM of my own that I know works. We're still not getting a post. In fact, we aren't getting any power at all, and there's no longer a blinking LED on the left side. I don't know how just moving these in and out with the system not working as is completely killed that amber LED, but it ain't showing up no more. And I think at this point, we just need to move on. Probably gonna be easier to swap the CPU first, although I don't think the CPU is to blame here. I've been so wrong before, and for some reason, there have been multiple cases where CPUs go bad. So I'm just gonna swap the CPU first, only because it's easier to do. But the motherboard is what I suspect is the problem at this point. Now, as we were told, this here is a 3900X, and golly, a ton of thermal paste was on top of this. It shouldn't affect usability at all, but it sure does make a mess when you want to go about swapping out a cooler or a chip. I have here a Ryzen 9 3900 XT, which I know works. I've used in several builds in the past, and I'm going to try to see if this will work with this platform. So we've got it in there, and before I put the cooler, the block of the AIO back on, I want to make sure that it powers on. If it doesn't, I mean, why waste our time here? We can just check for a couple of seconds. It won't do any harm to the CPU. Not something I recommend you do if you're not familiar with this sort of thing, but just in an effort of saving time, trying to be as efficient as possible here because we still haven't figured out what's wrong with it. It's still blinking orange. Okay. Interesting. Yep, no power, no response. This looks like a motherboard problem, but it's weird. It's almost like there's an incorrect BIOS flashed or something. I mean, it seems like if the motherboard was fully bricked, why would it be blinking like this? It's trying to tell us something. Maybe I should check this specific product manual. yeah, let's see what we can find. No, I take it back. You can actually see it's blinking all behind the board as well. There's a series of LEDs behind this side of the board, which is strange, toward the back. You can't really see them when they're illuminated, but anyway, they're there. And yeah, they're just flickering on and off incessantly. There is nothing I can really do about it. This isn't something you'll find in the manual because it shouldn't, yeah, this isn't a function of the board. I thought that the only LED we were supposed to see was that amber one there, but that's not typically where you'd see a debug LED pop up anyway. Usually it's somewhere near the 24 pin or down at the bottom. You'll see a Dr. Debug LED or something like that. Mainboard swaps are fairly annoying because you have to disconnect pretty much everything to get the initial one out. And you've got to reconnect everything very carefully, try not to snag cables with everything else still in the case, of course. But it just comes with the territory. Part of doing what we do. Oh, jeez, I can't even get to this screw up here with the AIO in the way. Just barely. Just barely. Wow, that actually worked. Okay, I got lucky there. Let's try it one more time. It looks like this board was installed with the AIO already in because these screws up top are angled downward, which is why I'm able to get them out so easily. That's a weird order of operations. Now, the removal is a bit odd, of course, with everything in here, but there we go. Okay, so motherboard is out. It's definitely, again, there was so much thermal paste around the socket. It looks like it was worked on at some point and then reinstalled with everything else still in the case. That's just the impression I'm getting. I could be wrong, and that wasn't mentioned to me, but yeah, let's try swapping the board out. I don't see anything obvious. No like blown caps or anything. Okay, so I'll try another board. I don't know if I have another X570 board. I might have B550. And then, yeah, we'll make sure that his CPU works. So this is my trusty X570 Tai Chi from ASRock. It's a great board. I've used plenty of their Tai Chi models in the past. And I think we're going to go with this one. I know this one works. I'm just hoping that once we get it in the build, everything lights up and we get a post. Also, can't forget these M.2 drives that were hiding under the heat shields of the previous board. Also, shout out to Pepsi's butt that decided to make an entrance into this video. This install is going to look a bit janky. Our order of operations is a bit topsy-turvy here, but we'll work with what we got. We got the graphics card in here. Of course, we're going to need this for pictures to verify that it posts. That's assuming we can even get it to power on, so crossing everything I got here. And I think that is about it for primary components and wiring. I have not connected smaller peripherals or drives. I just want to see, actually we don't even need a screwdriver, we have a power button. That's nice. Just want to see if we get a picture out. I probably should connect the HDMI cable to the card. And we're just looking for something. Let me go ahead and reset it quickly here. Sometimes doesn't know where to send picture out if there's nothing connected initially. Give us a post. That would be fantastic. Please a post. Uh-oh. Maybe it's just training memory. I really want a picture. For some reason, Dr. Debug LED is still stuck on 27. But I feel like it should still post. Everything looks decent. I mean, come on, at this point, if it's not the board, okay, let's check something. In a nutshell, this code represents a memory issue of some sort, so we're going to check our 4 DIMMs. We'll try just 1 DIMM in each slot. Again, I already did this for the previous platform, so that'd be really weird if we had both a motherboard issue and a memory issue, unless the motherboard took a bunch of other components with it and could possibly also have taken the CPU, which I hope wasn't the case. But this new board is not liking the memory we have in it right now. It just keeps defaulting to this code 27. And here's proof that just because your LEDs are working for your DIMMs, it doesn't mean that the modules themselves are okay. And it looks like we have a dead memory channel, which we've run into in the past. So essentially, the way to check for that, if you're not getting a post due to some memory issue, which we can obviously discern here at the bottom thanks to the Dr. Debug LED, what you can do is try populating strategically different DIMM slots. So if I put 2 DIMMs into slots A1 and A2, the system boots up just fine. I can put 1 DIMM, only 1 DIMM, in either A1 or A2, the system works fine. If I put any DIMM in either B slot, that's B1 or B2, the 2 rightmost slots, the system refuses to post and simply hangs here at the error code 27. So dead memory channel, that means it's the CPU's fault in this case because I know this board has no problem with dual channel memory, the board side of it. And the only other variable is obviously the CPU. I've of course swapped different modules into different B slots and we still get the same problem. So I think what I'm going to do at this point, because I mean, this isn't acceptable as is, I'm going to swap in my 3900 XT and verify we can get the system to work with all 4 modules slotted.
A few moments later.
Power at the rear and power button up front. Come on. There it is, that's it. All right. So we're no longer stuck on the number 27 for Dr. Debug. And we should be getting a post any second now. Well, maybe I spoke a little too soon. It's power cycling because I imagine it's having to retrain memory again because we swapped CPUs. So CMOS will likely be reset and a few other things, but that's okay. Still expecting a post. There it is. Alrighty. So with that, I believe this build is ready to go. We need to try to clean up cable management behind the motherboard tray as best we can, get everything back together there, and then this system is pretty much Gucci. So we'll just set this to the side. The last thing I want to do before I end this video is test this board a bit more because this one I'm not totally sure about yet. It's possible that the motherboard is responsible for the dead memory channel on the CPU, but it could also be that the CPU created some sort of issue with the motherboard. So or maybe they're both dead for different reasons. Like at this point, who really knows? That's why I want to run a few more tests just to see where we are with this thing. You can see the pins in the viewer's chip are fine. Overall, physically, it looks great. So I have no reason to suspect that there's any, pin damage or improper contact in the socket. I also checked the socket side of the motherboard. It looks good. So where do we go from here? I've got kind of a makeshift test bench here, and it is a bit messy. I do apologize. We're just testing things, and sometimes it does get messy. So power on. I'm not seeing the flashing light anymore on the motherboard. If this works now, I mean, well, but nothing. Yep, power's on there. CPU 8-pin, 24-pin are connected. CPU's not getting hot, no LEDs, no fan spinning. This thing is bricked. I've stripped the board down about as far as it will go in search of any blemish, any issue, physical damage that would be obvious to the untrained eye. I even probed a few places checking for continuity. I found nothing. There's one tiny little mark here around the solder point for actually one of these power faces, it looks like, for the CPU. And it's possible that if this was shorted maybe by a cable that was sitting behind the motherboard and it was just pressed against it and that cable insulation was punctured and that caused a nasty short right here along the power rail, that could kill the CPU, could certainly damage the motherboard, and if it doesn't kill the CPU, it could again damage something else about the chip, maybe like a memory channel. So I don't really know for sure. There's just no way to really do it with the limited tools I have here in the office. But one thing is for sure, this motherboard is super, super bricked. And another thing's for sure, this 3900X is partially bricked. Dead memory channel, it's not unusable, but it's not ideal. You want to be able to run dual channel memory, especially with Zen 2 chips. And the fact that we can't take advantage of that here just means that it should be replaced if possible. That's why I gave them my 3900 XT, which is well, actually a slightly better version of the original 3900X. And the best news of the night, the fact that the system now works again. Swapping the motherboard ultimately fixed the primary issue, I believe, but it looks like either the motherboard might have influenced the CPU's partial death or vice versa. Nonetheless, we swapped both out, and now the system's up and running again, which is great. I was told that this is used for a lot of off-site work, so it was important we got it back to the viewer as quickly as possible. I'd say mission accomplished. Well, that was fun. It was a bit unexpected. I was a bit confused at first. Definitely thought it was a power supply problem, just from the weird blinking we were seeing. But it looks like the motherboard was on its last leg, and for whatever reason, it is now completely dead, and there's not much I was able to really do about it apart from just swap it outright. The CPU, it looks like, was also kind of sort of a bystander here, but maybe a partial victim as well. I'm not sure why the memory channel was cooked and why that happened around the same time as the motherboard just not wanting to play ball. It's possible the two were linked. In fact, it's probably likely, but I don't have any evidence to prove that they were related, so I can't really make that claim. Nonetheless, swapping the motherboard out, swapping the CPU out, we now have a fully working system again. Bit of a shame that we had to swap out two major components, but not a problem. And thankfully, we have a lot of really great vendors that I can reach out to help me replace this hardware that I give folks who have broken systems. So it's a great relationship, and again, it's because of your viewership that I'm able to do what I do here. With that, if you or someone you know who lives in and around Orlando, Florida has a broken system, maybe one that powers on but doesn't send a picture out or straight up doesn't turn on at all, I would love a chance to fix your system for free, and you can submit an inquiry via the link in this video's description. If you guys enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up, that would be greatly appreciated. Consider subscribing if you have not already. Leave a comment down below and I will catch you in the next one. My name is Greg. Thanks for learning with me.